There's a cable in front of the camera. Is that normal? Okay. Hi guys, welcome back to our podcast. My name is Anita, and
Hira.
this is our podcast, A Million Minds.
Yes.
So we want to tell you how did we come up with the name? Yeah, you want to start?
So usually people think of the name before.
Yeah.
So we thought, let's see what's the vision with it, and to choose a name that suits the purpose.
Yeah. Because in the first episode, if you notice, we didn't say any name for the podcast because we actually just went rolling however it was. And then from the first episode to the second episode, we came up with the name. Since we wanted to do it like very live and real, like, you know, close to life. So we wanted to do it something like we had different names, right?
Yes.
But
this was the best one. Especially the minds part comes from how we're going to have a lot of bright people on the podcast.
show, yeah.
Yes. So there's going to be a million minds, hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, a million is a lot.
Yeah.
But
I
we
count
will
for half of it, so.
So I'm the other half then. So that's it. It's only us guys. Okay. So today's topic is moving countries, since we mentioned it in the first episode, and I think we are pretty good at
Moving countries.
Yeah, we have
I mean,
some experience.
As good as it can go.
Yeah.
Because it's always a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone does it easily.
Definitely.
There is always new challenges that even if you're experienced, even if you've lived a very long, and fruitful life, there are still new doors you have to open.
Yeah.
When you try to relocate after even 50 years, because I had this with my parents.
Yeah.
My parents have moved countries so many times due to work, studies, different reasons every time.
Yeah.
And I think it's still a hard thing to do.
Even my parents as well.
Yeah.
They have changed a lot.
Yeah, it's always a hard thing to do. You get used to the custom of the checklist you have to go through.
Exactly.
That's the only thing you will really gain. You will know what to
do and what not to do.
Exactly. So, for example, like with the, if you're trying to work somewhere or you want to be freelance or start a business, you will learn a structure about it.
Yeah.
You learn the visas. You learn that there is things like SIM cards and all these things you have to work your way through.
Having to
but
account.
It's different for each country.
Yeah.
Because the visa process of UK
has nothing to do with the one in UAE.
Yeah. I mean, even if it's close, even if it's very close, because a lot of times they've tried to see what works out there, and UAE was a good example of it for many years. And still to date, I think there's a good visa processing system, but maybe there is issues in other things, which is not for us to discuss because we are not expert in the field. But the structure worked.
Yeah.
There are some countries that don't have a structure for student visa, working visa.
Yeah.
There is a lot of countries. There's 200 countries out there.
Because so many, like, they weren't welcoming people so much from before, and they just started. So, they're just coming up with the law and, like, the processes as they go.
A lot of countries still to date don't have anyone who wants to go there.
Yeah.
So it's not every country is like UAE that is attracting, 1,000 people moving here every day. They've done a good system here. The structure works. The systems work. People are moving here.
Exactly.
A lot of countries, never mind not working, it might be going backwards as well. So therefore, they don't really need a system for people entering.
Yeah.
There is always the strategies are needed for the demand. UAE definitely has the demand.
Yeah.
That's why they've created the system for the visa processing, and it works. It works perfectly. They know exactly what they're doing. But overall, it's going to be a lot of, back to the conversation about the checklist. You just learn what the checklist is.
Yeah.
You have to go chase up, just as simple as getting a SIM card.
Yeah. How are you gonna get from
insurance.
the airport to your house,
Yes,
to wherever you got it?
Exactly. It's from as simple as that.
It's different in every country.
Yes, that's true. But overall, a lot of this is the overall that you learn. You don't learn the details because it's done differently, different maybe languages, different structures, different cultures affected as well in different countries. But a lot of times when you first time move, I know people who moved and it wasn't somehow necessary for the country. I'm not going to name the country, but it wasn't necessary for the country when you were getting the visa. It wasn't necessary to provide healthcare, private healthcare or any kind of healthcare, and they didn't think of getting a healthcare because in their home country, they were
It's just there.
covered. Yeah, they were covered under the family. Their father was doing it, so they never thought of, going through the process of getting healthcare. And after a long time in the new country, when they had a problem, they went to and they had an emergency. They went to the hospital and they were not covered. The hospital was like, how are you without any kind of cover? You don't have the governmental healthcare. You don't have the private, because the governmental, they didn't qualify with the type of visa. They were on a student visa. So they had to get the separate one, and they somehow, the university and the visa process didn't mandate it, or I don't know what happened there, but and they didn't think of it. So the hospital couldn't register them in. This was in A&E, accidents and emergencies of a hospital, and they were in an emergency.
Yeah.
So the person being in that state, and I was one of the people who went with him as a friend because he was, I'm not going to get into it. It was a messy situation. They had an accident. So we were just clueless at what, we were saying, okay, the person is not in a position that we sort out a healthcare now.
Yeah.
Friday night at 2 a.m. So we need you to do something. And the nurse was saying, there's no way I can register him in. Like, we do not have him on any sort of system.
Yeah.
And they were offered there was hospitals you could go in the city that would take care of it, but they weren't the best hospitals as well, and the wait list was even longer, and the person was in an emergency situation. We couldn't just go between hospitals.
Exactly, yeah.
So like, this is the main thing, to know the checklist, so 6 months down the line you're not
encountered with these problems, this kind of problems.
Yeah, and it's a very unusual thing to do, for someone to happen.
Yeah.
To miss out something because in their home country they never thought of it.
Yeah.
I had another person who moved to Australia.
Yeah.
And they didn't have a TFN. It's a tax file number. You just have to have that registered when you want to get employed.
Okay.
There is different tax file numbers. If you have a business, you have your business tax file number. It's for tax purposes with ATO of Australia. So you just need to have that. And this person didn't have it for a long time, and they did something probably, I would say, illegal because they started working without this. And there's no way your employer should be hiring you without a tax file number, because how is the tax being calculated?
Yeah.
ATO doesn't know you exist.
Yeah.
They don't have you on the system. Never mind, so they can't link you to a PayG account, which is when you're getting paid.
Yeah.
So these things, to just register for these things. Or for example, driving license.
Yeah.
There is rules to do with that. People move countries, they have a driving license for 10 years, they start driving, they want to just they get friends' cars or, sometimes hire a car or whatever, and they don't notice. And when they get stopped by the police asks them first question, how long have you been in the country? How long have you been driving? And they say 10 years. You're driving without a license.
Yeah.
That's what your license is only valid, for example, depending on the country, but roughly 6 months in every country.
Yeah.
And that's from usually date of arrival. Because you cannot say, for the first 2 months I was taking Ubers.
Yeah.
They can't.
Who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. How can you check?
So exactly. So if you've had a major accident and there's a court case against you because unfortunately you had a accident, you hit some pedestrian, they will start looking at when you entered. The opposition, the public prosecutor, if there is, will question that.
Yeah.
He will bring it into the factor. Like, first of all, why is he behind the car? 10 years in the country, doesn't have for example, Australian driving license. You cannot do that, you know. I mean, unless there is a few exceptions to the fact, but generally speaking, you have to get Australian driving license. Just like in UAE now, UAE is 6 months.
Exactly.
After that, you have to. Some countries qualify for a
Unless
change.
you have like an international permit.
Even if you
driving
have an
permit.
international permit,
Usually it's 1 year.
international permit is still the same. It's advisable 6 months because they want, because UAE government is strict. A lot of your fines will go on your points. You know, deducting from your total points. They cannot deduct points from your international driving license.
Yeah.
Because it's a different system. They can't, you know, they can't call Australian government and say, "Can you deduct 6 points for us from your pointing system, which is a different pointing system?" How is that going to work? It's never going to work. So they need you to have a UAE driving license so they can penalize you and keep a track record, the history, correctly. You know, especially if you live here and you're on an Emirates ID. If you're a tourist, no, that's why you have 6 months. But you know, if you're planning to stay longer, you have to get. Some countries are. It's as easy as just going to the RTA here and giving your license and going through the paperwork process of getting an UAE driving license. Some countries qualify for that. It depends on your country.
Yeah.
For example, I think UK does. UK driving license, you just swap it.
Yeah.
As far as I know. But some countries...
Even here, like, depending on the driving license, you can just swap it.
In UAE. So some countries you can swap it.
Yeah.
Some countries you cannot. For example, I think if your driving license is from maybe Indonesia, you cannot just swap it.
No,
you have to go through the process. But it can be short, depending on, every country has its own rule set. It's like a visa process. Not everyone goes everywhere visa free.
Yeah.
You know, some countries have 30-day visa free. Some countries have 90 days. Some countries have none.
Yeah.
You know, it really depends on which country you're coming from. The origin of your country, origin of your driving license matters. So some countries have to do the test again here.
I see you talk a lot about Australia because, I mean, I guess you have some knowledge of it. So do you want to like develop that?
So I lived in Australia a total of, I would say 9 years, 8 years, something like that. Because there was a lot of back and forth. So to add it up, I don't know, it's something like that. I went to school there.
Okay.
I went to high school, and from early ages I was there.
Yeah. But you're originally Persian.
I'm originally Persian. So I was born in Tehran. My family is from the north, from Gilan.
Nice. Okay.
But that's family. When I say family, I mean my grandpa.
Right.
My dad was born in Tehran as well. And he speaks a little. Because we have, in Iran actually, we have a lot of different dialects that are very different.
Okay.
Because some countries you have dialects, but you understand each other.
Yeah.
For example, in Spain, people from the south have a different dialect than in the north. But if they speak to each other, they exaggerate and say we don't understand, but they really do.
I mean, it depends, because in the north there's different dialects, but there's also different languages in the north of Spain.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
So one thing, it's a dialect that you just speak with an accent,
That's
and another thing is like complete, which is, you know,
yes,
in the south we speak with an accent, and the majority of Spain cannot understand what we say. But there's so many regions in Spain that they have a completely different language.
Yes,
you know?
That's true. No, we're not talking about different languages.
It's dialects.
Dialects.
Yeah.
But in Iran, the different dialects, it's very hard to understand each other. It's pretty much impossible. Like, as I said, how they speak in the north, right? They would say Gilaki to the accent, right? It's not its own language.
Yeah.
Right? And the way I would speak it, being born in Tehran, raised in Tehran, I will not understand. I would say 90% if my grandma starts talking like that with one of my aunts. 90% I won't understand what they said.
Yeah.
10%.
Yeah.
I understand. It's not enough.
That's practically nothing.
Yeah. But then, for example, if you're in the northwest side of Iran, they speak Turkish. It's a different Turkish than Turkey, the country. But people from Turkey, the Turkish speaking of Iran and Turkish speaking of Turkey can understand each other way better than I, as a Farsi speaker, would understand that.
Okay.
You see, so that's the difference. That's a different language, as
Yeah.
you were saying. You know, it's like speaking Catalan.
Yeah.
It's a different language, but this is just the accent. It's like saying, you know, the accent from Andalusia. But you understand it from Madrid to
Yeah, obviously.
you understand it.
It's
But-
because it's
but
still
for
the
us-
same language.
Yes, but for us, it's still the same language, but it's very
Different.
different.
Yeah. I
It's
know
just
what
the
you
way
mean.
they say it.
Yeah.
You know. So
Okay. So you've been some time in Iran.
so I was
and-
born in Iran, raised in Iran,
Okay.
till I was 6, 7.
Yeah.
I moved to Dubai. I lived here. I lived in Sharjah 1 year, Dubai 1 year,
Okay.
and then I moved back, and then to Australia.
Okay.
So I lived there in Australia. I was always in the West Coast in Perth.
Nice.
To the other states, traveled a lot, but never grew up there when I was
Okay.
growing up. I grew up in Perth. I think it's the best state in
Yeah.
Australia. I would say it's the best state.
Uh-huh.
Between
How come?
Because you have the perfect blend of weather.
Okay.
The weather is better than, for example, East Coast compared to Melbourne and Brisbane. Brisbane is too humid,
Yeah.
but it's fun.
Yeah. I've actually
Um,
been only to Perth, so
Yes.
But and it was almost summer, so it was amazing weather. But
Yeah.
because in the day it was so incredibly hot,
Hmm.
but at night, like if I didn't wear like a full puffer coat, like
Yeah.
I would freeze to death, and that was like almost
At
summer.
night.
Yeah.
Depends.
Depends on the day.
Depends where you are as well. Because Perth is like
Yeah.
all ocean front, right?
Yeah.
The whole city is stretched along the sea,
Yeah.
along the ocean.
Yeah.
And so there's a very good chance you're walking very close to the ocean. And at night you get the wind.
Exactly. Because the
That's
thing
the
is, the
wo-
problem is the wind.
It's the wind, yes. And it's very flat in
Yeah.
general. Australia is kind of flat. There
Yeah.
is not so many mountains. That's why, the wind just flows through.
Yeah.
You know?
Same like Qatar, because
Yeah.
I've been living there for some time as well. And it's, one of the things that you get is the wind.
Yeah.
But in the day, it's perfect,
Yeah.
And many times in the day, even like it's the wind that saves you from the heat,
True. Yes. It's the same.
Yeah, because
in
it's very flat and it's just along the coast.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I know. So Brisbane is too humid. Melbourne has a moody weather, as they call it.
Yeah.
Maybe not as bad as sometimes they compare it to London. I don't.
I was going to say similar to London.
No, I don't think you can compare. It's it's not that bad.
Well, define bad.
Okay, London. We've
London is
Yeah, I've lived
London.
there. You've lived there too.
Yeah.
London's weather is something else.
It's something else.
People
yeah.
who've lived in London, they know.
Yeah.
London's weather is it's hard to
It's
deal
a
with.
weather of its own.
Yeah,
like
it's a-
nowhere else.
Melbourne is like London when you compare it to the rest of Australia.
Right.
It's the best way I can put it, because Sydney, Perth, Brisbane have such good weathers that Melbourne is considered terrible. But when you actually compare it to London, it's heaven.
Yeah.
So, but either way, if you're moving to Australia, when we compare it to other Australian cities, Melbourne has a moody weather, Brisbane has a humid weather, Sydney and Perth have the best weathers,
Okay.
right? It's
I really want to go
more
to Sydney.
dry, it's has the sun, it's very good. The balance is good.
Yeah.
And then you have Darwin. I would say Darwin is kind of too much as well, but Darwin has the bigger issue of the city is not as entertaining. If you want, if you want to have a social life, if you want to have a lifestyle, Darwin is
More quiet.
it's more quiet. There's a lot of industrialized things going on there, so a lot of people go there. It's just for work purely.
Yeah.
But Melbourne, Sydney, Perth, Brisbane are good cities. There is a work-life balance you can have.
Okay.
There is everything going on. And between them, so I would say between these, Perth and Sydney are the best places to live,
Okay.
right? Now, if you wanted a little more busy, of course, Sydney is a better choice. If you're more family-oriented, you wanted more calm, you wanted more, even more safe. Australian cities are all safe, I would say.
Yeah.
But even if you wanted even more safe compared to Sydney, Perth, wins in safety
Yeah.
compared to Sydney. And if price, of course, is a factor for you, if you're not a billionaire, then Sydney.
Sydney is one of the most expensive cities in the world.
Yes, and not when it comes to necessarily things like restaurants and food
Not
and
like on a daily
groceries.
basis,
Not
but
on
like
these.
the land
Then
and
yes, on real
like
estate.
real estate. Yeah.
Rent, mortgage, which is related to purchasing properties. Property prices are very high. They're extremely high. It's people who live in Sydney can't believe it.
Yeah.
They're thinking, I had a colleague that one time I was speaking to, and he was saying, my father gave me nothing. He was in his 60s, 70s, and he was saying, my father gave me nothing. So everything I own now is my own work in the past 40 years in Sydney. He always lived in Sydney. So working in Sydney, he managed to purchase over this period of time 3 properties.
Okay.
He lived in one, and he had 2 more that was just rented.
Okay.
And he was saying that over the course of his life, he was managing to purchase. And now he's concerned for his kids, because he was saying there is no way, no matter how I want to look at the numbers, there's no way my son and my daughter can purchase a house.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah.
Forget about few, one. Just for them to live.
Just for them to live.
Yes.
I mean, I feel like that's kind of the market many places now.
Yeah. Because, for example, property prices can be easily 7 million. Easily in Sydney.
7 million
Australian dollars.
Australian dollars.
And your income?
That's around how many dirhams?
It's 2.5 times the exchange rate. So 7 million is something like 3. It's just under 3, 2.8.
Opposite.
Sorry.
Right?
Yes.
Opposite.
Sorry.
Like
million.
17.
So what is 7? So
17 and a half.
So yes.
Million.
Yeah.
Dirham.
17.5 million
Okay.
dirhams. So if we just compare the numbers in the ratio of each other, so when your house price is 7 million, and as an employee, for example, any profession, engineer, accountant, someone in finance, teacher, doctor, maybe doctor, no. Doctors usually would have, because the thing is with doctors is very different.
Yeah.
Whether you have your own or you're working in a hospital, it's very different. But as a nurse, all these professions, when you're on a salary, I would say 100,000 salary is a reasonable salary for a 20-something-year-old in Australia.
Okay.
They would be offered 100K.
Okay.
Right? Now you pay taxes on that, so you're left with something like 70, 75. Best case scenario, depends. So now with this, you have to buy. So your net salary per year, net income is 70K. Now your property value is 7 million.
7 million. Yeah. Even if it was like
that's 100 times.
Even let's say 4 million.
That means 100 years.
And even let's say 4 million.
Yes.
How are you supposed to do it anyway? 4 million.
It means you have to save for 50 years, 60 years, not spending for a single coffee.
Yeah.
And hope, which is a very unrealistic hope, but hope that the property is still 4 million when you're finished saving.
And the building is still there.
Yes. So it's a rat race you never reach.
Yeah.
It's a greyhound race.
Yeah. And even in Australia, which is a place where the salaries and like the incomes are very good, compared to other places.
Yes.
And we're talking about Australia, which is a place that is very good. Imagine somewhere like Spain,
yeah,
right?
So I'm saying,
Spain right now, the prices of the houses are crazy, right? And there is absolutely no way anyone my age, our age, can purchase a house. Yeah. Like even just give the entry for it, It
really depends, unless you go in a town.
Unless you go in a town, yeah. There are, there are some towns you go in the middle of nowhere and you can purchase a house for like 40,000 euros. That's what, like, 160,000
No, in big
dirhams.
cities, I would say it's more affordable.
In big cities,
Yeah, bigger cities, it's still affordable. How much
it's
is a house in Granada? You can get a house in Granada for 300K.
for 300K. Okay,
And your salary is 30K.
your salary for someone my age, I'm sorry, but it's li- 24K.
24.
24K
So you get
after tax.
after tax or before tax?
Well, 24
Even
if
if
you're
you say
24
20.
if you're very lucky
Yeah.
with your position. If not, it's like 20K, something like that.
20K, you can mortgage it. 30-year mortgage, you can get it.
Yeah. But
Right?
still, do you
Yeah,
see, but
it's very
still, do you
hard.
see the ratio?
But it's doable, you know?
But over a very long period of time. Like someone
30
who
years.
is 24 can never
Of course.
give the entry. He
If
has
you're
to be at
talking
like
about-
he has
yes.
to be like 40
I see what
with
you're
a
talking about.
salary, with
You're
a salary.
talking about, wait, you're talking about our parents' generation that they saved up 3 years and bought a property. Say
No.
goodbye to that.
No, I'm not talking about. I'm saying like how, especially now, it's impossible to do that. With
Say goodbye to
impossible
that.
Yeah.
We're talking about when I look at a city today
Yeah.
and I want to compare it for a 20-year-old
Yeah.
and I want to see if they can buy a house or not, I see if the bank gives him a 30-year mortgage or not. Forget about 3 years. 30-year mortgage.
Right.
I'm looking at 30-year mortgage. In Spain, in Granada, you can get a 30-year mortgage on a 20,000 salary. Because the bank will look at your 20K and say the property value is 300. 30 years, you cover. Okay.
Yeah. But
Next.
the problem.
But in Sydney, they will not give you. If your salary is 100K and you go chase a house that is 7 million, the bank will laugh you out to the exit door. I'm not joking.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is a joke. You call your mortgage broker and you say, I want to buy a property. They expect to hear a number like you're making 350K
Yeah.
a year, which is not everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You need experience to get to, you need to be a 10-year experienced lawyer to make 350K a year.
Definitely.
You
Yeah.
cannot be graduated yesterday and you want to make 350. No one wants to give you that money. No one will ever give you that money.
Yeah.
So it's impossible. But Perth is possible.
Okay.
Melbourne is possible. You can get a 1-bedroom apartment for 500K,
Okay.
right? 500,000 Australian dollars. When your salary is 100, right? Your gross salary.
Yeah.
Net salary 70K.
Okay,
You
but
see
that
how the
makes
numbers
more
make
sense.
sense?
Yeah.
Yes, the numbers makes more sense. Yeah, you can't get a mansion because the mansion is
No, but
okay.
like an apartment to live in when you're young and to start building your life.
Yes, apartment in Sydney. You can get apartment in Sydney for, I would say, starting from 1.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
You see, it's triple the
Minimum.
price of Melbourne.
Yeah.
And Melbourne is a big city, similar to Sydney.
Yeah.
If you're looking at how big it is, the facilities, the way the city works, it's the same.
Yeah.
Maybe Perth, okay, no, it's smaller. Perth is comparable with Brisbane.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Sydney and Melbourne are the same, and
Yeah.
then Perth and Brisbane, in terms of population, in terms of amenities in the city, the way the city operates, I would compare them similarly.
Yeah.
And then, for example, the next after that would be Adelaide.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Adelaide is a little smaller. There is a huge student hub, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for it, and the rest, there's families, there's of
Okay.
course residents.
Okay, so going back to difficulties and not difficulties
Yeah.
of moving countries. First of all, out of the places that you've lived, do you want to say which one is your favorite? Which one would you say it's your favorite?
Just personal preference, you mean?
Yeah.
I would
Just,
say,
just with the pros and cons and...
yes. Look, Dubai, I would say,
Mhm.
could be the first.
Really?
But it really
Okay.
depends.
Okay.
If you're single or you're a family,
Mm.
how old are you? Are you 18? Are you 35?
Yeah.
Are you a 50-year-old
Okay,
with two kids?
but what you have
Very
lived
different.
until now.
Let's
your
start with
preference
young
from
people.
now.
Let's say someone in their 20s
Yeah,
who don't have kids,
yeah,
or if they have kids, they're very little, so they're not really looking at schooling, language, all of
Yeah.
this. Because, for example, when you have, I moved a lot of times when I was young to countries that I didn't know the language, and to go to school day one without knowing anything more than hello in their language.
yeah.
I could just say hello.
Yeah.
Not how are you. I couldn't say how are you. Just hello. It's very hard on the kid. I mean, it builds him
Yeah.
or her over time.
Yeah, but at first.
But first, it's hard. Some kids, it's traumatic for them.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes. So, but if you have flexible family situation, I would say Dubai is the best. Especially if you're motivated.
I agree.
You know,
Yeah.
because it gives you a lot of options. You see, the point of view of a country really matters. There was a time in the US they said this is where dreams are built.
Yeah.
The slogan
American
for
dream.
yes,
The American dream. But now it's the
there was
Dubai
a movie.
dream.
There was a movie I watched many years ago. I think it's called Spread. I think.
Okay.
Or
I know.
Split.
No.
Spread or Split.
Spread.
With
The one with Ashton Kutcher.
Yes.
Yeah.
There is a perfect introduction to LA.
Yeah.
At the start,
yeah.
And there's a perfect exit. Well, not perfect, not so
not
perfect.
so perfect,
but there is an exit at the end of the movie.
It's a good movie, guys.
Yes, it's a very good movie. It's a little, I would say, 18 plus. So
yeah,
look at the ratings before you watch it.
No, but it's interesting.
Yeah, there is.
That's the one that it's about the butterfly effect, right? Or no?
No.
No.
I don't know.
I think it has something to do with it.
Maybe.
But okay, don't quote me on it.
But anyway, but and that was and it was true.
Yeah.
It was true. How many people immigrated from Europe, from all over the world there, and they made it?
Yeah.
There is the stories are out there. It's not one or two guys who got.
But also, like
lucky.
we are talking about older generations that have that had immigrated there from before, and
it's very different.
For someone who wants to move to LA today, it's
very different.
It's very difficult. It's impossible.
Yes, it's very.
Or
different.
like New York. New York has a population of 35 million people. Yeah. That's
saturated market.
Yeah. Like the whole population of Spain is 46 million.
Yes.
That's in one city. So it's very hard. But back then, now LA's Bay is built on the things that the people from our past did, like from our older generation, like our parents, our grandparents. Now it's great, but it was hard now.
Yeah. Now, Dubai could go.
I think now
as
Dubai,
the new where you make your dreams come true.
Yeah, and I think now we are our parents' generation in Dubai.
Exactly.
So for our kids, it will be like so much harder.
Yes.
But for us now, it's like the perfect time.
Yes, exactly, because there is.
It's like for us, LA in the 70s.
Yes, there is a Dubai 2033 vision.
Yeah.
There's a Dubai 2040 vision.
Yeah.
For now, and if you look at the population growth they're expecting here, you see how it will get, more saturated.
Yeah.
Of course, it can even go further. It won't mean that 2040, that's the peak.
Exactly.
But of course, every single person who comes here with ambition makes it harder for the person who came yesterday.
Exactly.
This is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
So, and it's because it's a long game. People stay here. Coming into any kind of field or anything, it's not a short term,
Yeah.
That you say, no, the person who came yesterday already, finished and is gonna go. No, he's staying.
He's staying. Yeah.
So now he's competing with you. He's getting more experience.
Yeah.
He's getting.
Yeah. I haven't heard, anything of there's so many people live in Dubai. No.
I don't think anyone lives Dubai.
I don't think anyone lives Dubai.
Unless,
except the people that are like, on vacation and they have to go back to work in their home country, like they have a life there.
Some people leave the country.
And all of the people that are here on vacation and they have to leave to their home country, they're thinking of a way to come back of how can I live in Dubai? How can I leave my job in London or wherever they are and like come to Dubai?
Exactly. So it's a good market. It pushes you.
Yeah.
That's the vision of the rulers of Dubai.
Yeah.
They say we want the country. They've said this from many years ago. They said this from 20, 30, 40 years ago. The vision was always not tomorrow, today. They make it happen today. They like that kind of mindset. A lot of countries are not like that. Every paperwork takes forever. Every process takes forever. Every approval on any government project, the file stays on the person who needs to have a look at it.
Yeah.
for 6 months.
Yeah.
Here it's not like that. They see it's a yes or a no. If it's a bad project, they will tell you today. If it's a good project, it gets accepted tomorrow. Start working.
Yeah.
You know how many? I've started working in many countries.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked in I would say 6, 7, if not more countries. It's always you go for an interview, right? And and I'm talking about an average,
Okay.
right? I'm not talking about a particular company.
Yeah.
So on average, when you go to a job interview, it takes 2 to 4 weeks minimum in countries for your start date,
Yeah.
right? In Dubai, it's usually tomorrow.
Immediate. Yeah. When it says immediate,
Yes.
it doesn't mean immediate in 3 weeks. It means immediate like what time are you coming tomorrow?
Yes, when I've had interviews, I've seen people have interviews, and everything has gone good.
Yeah.
The company is happy, the HR is happy, the supervisor is happy, the employee is happy. Everyone's happy with the position, with the everything that they've discussed. And then they say, "So you're available immediate, right?" And I said, "Yes." Like, so when do you want to start? He said, two conversation back and forth. When should I start? When should you start? And I said, "Tomorrow." So, yeah, okay.
Okay. Yeah. Let's go.
Done.
Yeah.
A lot of countries, it's not like this.
Yeah.
It takes.
I know. Takes forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is a very good thing because the demand is there. They want to grow. The passion is there. They don't want.
Yeah. And everyone that comes here has that passion. So
Yes.
which is what builds the country.
You see, it's the circle around you always matters.
Yeah.
So if, for example, you are, everyone knows this. If you're with a bunch of billionaires, there's a very good chance you become a billionaire.
Yeah.
Because you hear them talk about it. You see their point of view. You see their
methods.
their
Their
yes.
behavior.
Yes.
Yeah.
You find out about all of this, right? So when you're in a country that everyone's pushing,
And
you'll
everyone's
start
making
pushing.
it. You're like, okay, I'm
No
making
no
it
matter
too.
how lazy you are, you get better compared to
Exactly.
yourself. Maybe
Yes.
you don't become Superman tomorrow,
Yeah.
but you get better. You get a 40% boost
Yeah.
in your own life immediately.
Yeah.
And after 1 year, another 20%, and after 2, 3 years, you reach, 100%. So you're doing double what
Automatically
you were
do
doing.
better. Yeah.
Yeah, you're on 100% increase. So you're doing double of what you were doing 3 years ago in
Exactly.
another country,
Yeah.
which is a good thing.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we will keep talking about this topic because it's very interesting. The moving countries, and we have a lot to say about it.
Yeah.
So we will continue in the next episode.
Yes.
Yeah. So
We will talk about some difficult moments.
Difficult moments,
And
yeah.
literally, I would probably say, very dot pointy checklist.
checklist. Yeah, we will go through the
Yeah.
checklist. We will go through the
'Cause
checklist.
I have
we
the
will have it here
checklist
next
here.
time. Yeah.
I've done it so many
we will
times.
have it here next time. Yeah, but I think I will bring something just so we don't navigate towards
Yes,
something else.
True. We can go very.
dot
direct.
point by point. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, we'll do that. Things to have in your mind when moving countries, to which countries depending as well. And yeah, that's it for today, guys.
No, just something to
Wow.
add.
Okay.
Just something to add. I'm excited for the FIFA Club World Cups. Now, a lot of people are not excited. They don't take it seriously.
Yeah.
But to me, this is coming from a Real Madrid fan that we have won a huge number of the best cup out there, which
Yeah.
is the UCL.
And the
But
best
still,
team.
if anyone shouldn't focus on other cups, is us.
Yeah.
And it's funny when you hear Barcelona fans
Yeah.
say, "Oh, this cup is not that important." Well, the cup that is important, you haven't won so many, so
Yeah.
you might as well get these ones. But they didn't even qualify, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Me too.
it would have been more exciting if they were there
Yeah.
and we got to play with them, even if we lost.
I
It's
know.
always fun to play with Barcelona, but unfortunately, they're not even in the league.
Yeah. It's
Oops.
too bad.
Sad. Atletico Madrid. You see, this is what I always say. Barcelona should go compete with Atletico Madrid. When you have completely mastered them, then maybe come to us.
Yeah. Come to us.
In La Liga, when we talk Spanish, if you want to go Europe, there is many clubs in between us.
Yeah.
The latest UEFA chart has come. Barcelona is 10th on that list.
Yeah.
9th is Roma. Go talk to Roma. We're on the first. We're first.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
there's 8 people in the
but to
bidder.
them, we are exactly the same level. You
Yeah.
know,
There-
exactly the
there's-
same level.
There is so many people. There's 8 steps they need to climb, so they're second to talk to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? Or-
Because in La Liga, for example, it's very easy. I mean, it's not very easy, but it's easier to be first and second against so many teams that
Yes.
are, not the very first club of each country in Europe.
Yes.
It's a little bit smaller teams, and
True. True.
so the fact that you are up there with Real Madrid in La Liga. It's okay, you've done it for so many years.
Yes.
Just continue doing what you were
Yes.
doing.
It's like PSG saying we're first in
Exactly.
Liga.
But doing
Great.
it, but being the first with all of the clubs in Europe,
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
different. It's
Yes.
different.
That's true. There is a lot of good Italian clubs,
Yeah,
British clubs,
British clubs.
from Premier
Yeah,
League. They need
German,
to compete
yeah.
with them. Yeah, German. They need to compete with them
Yeah.
first before they can, get in the top 3. If you're even not second, even
Yeah,
if they're
top
number
3.
4,
Yeah.
number 3, okay, talk to us.
yeah,
But number 10, you're double digits, man.
yeah. I know.
You know?
I know. Yeah, we will be talking about the
You're single digits on the UCLs, double digits on the chart.
yeah.
We're the opposite. You're
Yeah.
double digit on the UCLs, single digit on the chart. It's a little different. Same, but different.
We will be
So-
talking about the matches as they go.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm excited to
We will
see
be
that.
commenting them,
Yeah.
and
I'm excited to see the, Middle Eastern teams, how they perform, because they've done
Yeah.
a lot of investments.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they have very good
if
players.
you think of them, they're like PSG, Man City.
Yeah. Now, yes.
The fundings, the vision, it's
The vision
similar.
is there.
The background, the people who run it, they have the same sort of visions
Yeah.
for their teams.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see how they perform, because they never get to play in Europe. So this is the only time we get to see them clash directly with the European team.
Yeah.
I'm excited for those clashes.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Okay.
So yeah, we will talk
Thank
about
you.
all of that, and we will continue with the conversation about
Yes.
the countries.
Yes.
And now, that's it for today, guys. And we will see you next episode.
Yes. Perfect.